Hello, my dear friends. In our last session, we talked about how microfinance in our country evolved. And you remember we have talked about various committees which were there involved in the process of evolution of microfinance in our country. And in that process, we talked about SHG bank linkage program. So today we are going to discuss in detail about SHGs and various other methods of microfinance called joint liability groups and farmers clubs. So to begin with SHGs, we remember what were the full form of SHGs? Self-help group. And before we talk about SHGs, just to give the perspective that in our country there were a lot of problems to involve banking or the poor into the main banking stream. The reason was because dealing with poor meant high transaction costs for the bank. Then poor felt there's a lot of cumbersome documentation process. Then monitoring was also very costly for the bankers. Then the default rate was very high because poor were not able to give collateral. And then the subsidized resources were also found to have a lot of leakages. So because of this, poor were not coming into the main banking fold. So with that only this particular innovative model evolved called microfinance, and in that one of the most popular methods is SHG, that is self-help group. Now what is this group approach does? In what way it is a solution to the problems because of which bankers were not able to involve poor into their main fold? One, which this group approach does is, it encourages thrift, means there are more micro deposits with the bankers. Then instead of collateral, the traditional collateral concept, it takes collateral in a very different form. What is that form? It's a non-tangible collateral in the form of peer pressure, the relationship, the cohesiveness of the group. So this particular model uses social dynamics as collateral in place of the traditional collaterals which bankers take. Then what happens in this group approach? It pulls all the individual needs for credit. So that way it helps not only to the poor in way of SHGs but also to the bank in reducing the transaction cost. Then the process for lending, which otherwise was very problematic part for the poor to link themselves to the bank, is very simple in the process of group, and it links with the banking system the ones which were always delinked, means the poor. Now what is the aim of this SHG or the group approach? Is through micro deposit it will enhance or facilitate the group of poor people to have microcredit. Microcredit, we understand, the small amount of loan for the purpose of enhancing the level of standard of the poor. And then finally it wants the poor to be graduated to micro enterprise so that they have their own unit and there is a sustained income to raise their living standard. Then another aim of this group approach is that right now they may be the members of SHGs, but to empower them to such an extent that they become the individual account holders in the banks. So from interdependence to independence. So this is the way group approach gives a solution to the problem which bankers have been having in reference to keeping poor into the main banking fold. Now what is the core strategy of SHG bank linkage program? First, there should be a basic human feeling of self-worth which everybody has a right to have. So this group approach gives the poor people that particular feeling, and that's the core of it. Then it also builds the financial capabilities and self-confidence in the rural poor, and this is done through internal savings, so they're not dependent on money lenders or others, and also they can have lending from their own fund, and that is pooled out saving. Then there is a strength in the formal banking system and there is a strength in the informal organization called SHG. Now this particular group approach has, it has been a very a strong instrument in developing a synergy between this informal system of SHGs, where they can cater to their own need, and also formal system of banking where they are not under any exploitation and they can easily get linked with the banking system. Now, as we discussed earlier, microfinance is a small amount of financial services which is extended to poor living anywhere, can be urban area, can be suburban area, can be rural area, for the purpose of raising their living standards. Now, it is microfinance extended through SHG approach, means the group approach, and it can be through individual approach also. Now, so far as individual approach is concerned, now through individual approach, either it is done through banks, or when microfinance institutions, you remember we have discussed in our earlier session, if it is microfinance institution giving loans to their members, that's another way to give individual loans. So that's individual approach. So far as group approach is concerned, we had discussed about 3 models. Here, one is SHG bank linkage model, then other is MFI bank linkage model. Now, this SHG bank linkage model is done through mainly 3 ways. One is either SHGs are formed and promoted by bank themselves, or SHGs are formed and promoted by NGOs and financed by bank, and third, the bulk loan is given to MFIs which they in turn on lend to their own members. So these are the 3 main models popular in our country, which are group models. Now, who are the agencies who can form SHGs? So it could be many agencies, like government can form SHGs, bankers can form SHGs, even the federations of farmers clubs or federation of SHGs can also form SHGs, then NGOs, individuals, and Vikas Volunteer Bahini, which was the earlier name of farmers club. So these various agencies can form self-help groups. Now, what are the speciality of the design of self-help group approach? As we discussed, an informal group which is of, the range of members is from 5 to 20, and the flexibility is the main key factor of this entire process or approach. So the design features which are very, very important for SHGs to be so successful is, once, the self-selection. Members are voluntarily coming to the group as members. Then in this SHG approach, there is more focus to women. The data show that 85% of the total SHGs formed are of women. Then third very important feature is that it focuses on saving first and credit later. Then the group is after it is formed, it does internal lending and also it functions as a group, and the financing by banks or other agencies which are formal banking agencies is done only after 6 months of functioning of the group. Now, the important part here is this 6 months time is given for the group to learn the banking practice and also learn the discipline. Then other very important feature of this design of group approach is there is an intra-group appraisal system. Now, what is this intra-group appraisal system? Means the members decide whom to loan, whom not to loan, and how much to loan if in case the needs are emerging, and they only prioritize. So it's by way of consent, and that develops a power of decision making. Then the repayment schedules, which were otherwise a big problem in the formal banking system for the poor because of them being very stringent and very rigid. Here in SHG approach, there are shorter repayment terms and also very flexible. SHG charge usually the interest rates at par with market interest rates. So that gives them good benefit of having a good pool of money with them. Then there is a progressive lending. SHGs themselves only maintain the accounts, so they also learn the account maintenance, and overall it helps them to develop a relationship with the bankers. So in total, there are very important design factors which facilitate an SHGs to be involved in our main banking fold. Now, we have been talking about SHGs. So what exactly is SHG? We discussed earlier. SHG is a homogeneous group of about 15 to 20 members. Now, in certain areas which are called difficult areas, maybe the northeast or the Nexel or the other areas, hilly terrains, there the members number can be limited to 5, it could be starting from 5. So what is this homogeneity all about? Homogeneity means the member should have the same socioeconomic status and same need for money or the income. Now that makes it homogeneous. Then every member to save a small amount regularly. The general practice is minimum once a month people meet. People means here the members of SHG. This pooled saving is kept in a saving bank account, and this bank account is open in an SHG's name. We'll discuss about it later. Now what does it do? This homogeneous group, it is able to develop a bonding and relationship among the members, and the small saving which is kept in SHG's name, which are from 10 to 20 at least, if their bank account is opened in SHG's name in the bank, it does wonders in one way that the transaction cost is reduced for the bankers as well as for the poor. Then SHGs to use pooled thrift to give interest bearing loans to its members, and this decision taken in group meetings. Now it is very helpful for the members to take a decision about whom to give loan and whom not to give at a particular time, depending on the need of a member and the urgency of the member. Now this particular thing, it helps the member to learn prioritization and also financial discipline. The capacity of the members to think and handle larger resources gradually improves by way of this process. Now, depending on the SHG's maturity, bank gives loan to SHGs as a multiple of the pooled saving. Bank loan added to the SHG's kitty. In some places it is given in the form of cash credit limit, and in some place it is in the form of term loan. Now what does it do? It helps in adequate and sustained access to financial services. So we are able to see how this SHG approach helps the bankers as well as the poor. Now this group fund, which is collected through membership fee, through thrift collection, through NGOs or government organizations contribution, through loan repayments, through fines and penalties which are imposed by the members themselves, and also bank loan, is utilized in the form of internal lending and also developing the micro enterprises. Now how this SHGs function? The most important part is, as we had learned earlier, what is the collateral security for the bankers? You remember what we discussed? The collateral security for bankers here is in the form of peer pressure. There is otherwise no security taken by the bankers for SHGs, but it is in the form of peer pressure. Now to have peer pressure, first the homogeneity factor is very important, and how the group functions also very important. A good functioning SHGs function democratically. They've got office bearers, and these office bearers like leaders and then the secretary and the cashier, this particular office bearer's post keeps rotating to among the members, so that every member gets a chance of getting empowered to run the SHGs. Then they have regular periodical meetings which helps people to come together, to know each other, to make decisions which are very important to their life. Then decisions regarding thrift loans, interest rates, etc. are decided in the meeting. Now we'll have a movie, a documentary, which tells you as to how the SHG is formed and how they appraise their own loan and other interest rates and other things. So we have a movie, and it's a very interesting movie. You'll love to watch this.
There is one woman who lives in this village who did not wait for the world to change. Instead, she decided to change her world. Let us meet her. This is Mangala. Let us listen to her, telling us how the change came in her life.
93 साली आमची खूप दोन मुलं होती मला My husband's income was just sufficient to prevent my children from dying of hunger. At that time, my mother-in-law fell sick. I badly needed 300 rupees. I had no idea how to get the money. I did not want to fall prey to the moneylender. I was told by my friend that the bank gives loans. So I went to the nearby bank. They were all very busy in the bank. The madam was nice to me, but she had a problem in giving me such a small loan. She told me that it was too difficult for her to give very small loans to large number of people like me. Instead, she told me to meet Lakshmi madam of Gram Vikas, who would help me to join self-help group.
This advice of the bank official introduced Mangala to the world of self-help groups. Mangala is a changed person now. She took a 500 rupee loan from the SHG 6 years ago. By now, she has already borrowed 7 times from the SHG with a total of more than 1 lakh of rupees and runs her own small business unit at home. She has repaid all her loans. Her children go to school now. This is Lakshmi, who helped Mangala to join an SHG. She has been helping many poor women in the villages to form SHGs in their localities. She works for an NGO. We know that self-help is the best help. We also know that unity is strength.
In the same way, I felt I could encourage and help the poor people to become strong by coming together. I realized that self-help group was the best way for the poor to gain strength by being together and by helping each other. My NGO supported me fully in my efforts. I also found it very useful to seek the support of the state government when village level workers and Gram Sevaks interact together to call Gram Sabhas and so form self-help groups. The first thing I told the village elders all about myself, I wanted them on my side. I told them what an SHG was, what my NGO did for the empowerment of women, and I was happy to get their support. I clearly told everybody that I was not distributing any subsidy under any government program. Whenever I visited a family, I kept a small notebook with me. I jotted down all information regarding the family. And these were the questions I asked each family I visited.
Is there only one earning member in the family? Does the family bring drinking water from faraway place? Are the women forced to go far in the open fields early in the mornings because they don't have latrines? Are there old illiterate members in the family? Are there permanently ill members in the family? Are there children in the family who did not go to school? Is there a drug addict or a drunkard in the family? Are their houses made of kacha material? Do they regularly borrow from the money lender? Do they eat less than 2 meals a day? Do they belong to scheduled castes or scheduled tribes?
If the families answered yes to 4 or 5 of these questions, I considered them as poor.
Some of the similarities noticed by Lakshmi were similar living conditions, similar types of poverty, similar livelihood, same community or place of origin, etc. It was much easier now for Lakshmi to make out which families were likely to get along better with each other.
After visiting the family for the second time, I called one member from each family to attend the meeting, and this is our first meeting of the SHG.
How long does it take for forming the group? How long does it take to settle to a stable pattern?
I took about 5 to 6 months initially, but there have been instances when a good group is formed even after 2 months. After formation, it takes about 6 to 8 months for the group to get the first bank loan from the bank. During formation, in the formative stages, we were helped greatly by the village level workers of DRDA and the Panchayat Samitis, known as the Gram Sevaks, who worked with our block coordinators in the formation of groups. During the initial months, I noticed that some members left, whereas new members joined in, and others were quite regular. It is normal for some people to leave in the beginning when the group is formed, and others can join in. It is only after that they start saving regularly, they have the meetings regularly, they write their minutes, and they realize the importance of being together. At this stage, I realized that I was moving in the right direction.
"10 to 20 members are ideal, because in a larger group than that, everybody will not be able to interact. By taking one member from one family, we can make more families participate. Members from the same social and economic background interact more freely with each other. The group should meet and save regularly so that everyone gets the savings habit. The group should lend among the members from the savings and maintain simple books of accounts. The SHG should also discuss the problems of its members."
Now the time has come for the group to find itself a leader. I found that the best way of doing so was to ask the group present here the following questions so that they could answer and choose their leader.
Who should take the decisions in the SHG?
All members should decide together.
Who benefits from the SHG?
All members benefit.
Who should do the work?
All should share the work.
How can the work be shared?
Agree on one person to take up the work by rotation.
What about rules? Does an SHG need rules?
It is important for every SHG to form its own simple but clear set of rules. For example, the SHG should have an agreement on when to meet, an agreement on time and place of meeting, penalties are agreed upon for non-attendance, late attendance, etc. This will give them an idea on time management and discipline, an agreement on amount of saving, an agreed system of giving small loans to each other, an agreed system of maintaining records. Again, this will give transparency to the operations of the SHG.
Did you notice? All these rules are agreed upon by the members and not thrust upon the SHG. What are the training needs of the SHGs?
Some members of the SHG wanted to know how to keep accounts. I taught them how to write simple books of account. It is easy to show to the SHG members how to calculate interest in a simplified way. If a loan of Rs 850 is taken, 8 rupees will be the interest per month if the interest is 1 rupee per 100 rupees. If the interest is 2 rupees per 100 rupees of loan, the interest amount will be 8 plus 8 equal to 16. They also wanted to know how to schedule meetings, how lending is done, and how repayments are done. For this, I really didn't have to hold any class. All I did was to take them to the nearby village where they already had a good SHG. The members, and this made my task much easier. Soon after the new SHG meets once or twice and some savings are collected, we should try to link the SHG to the nearby branch of a bank.
Why should this be done?
In my experience, it is very important for the SHG to have a relationship with the bank. This happens in two ways. One is the savings linkage, when the group opens a savings bank account with the bank. The second is the credit linkage, when the group takes bank loan for the first time. All poor people have tiny surpluses of their money. All they need is a safe place to keep this money. SHG is the safest place for these poor people to store their money. Otherwise, these surpluses would get spent. Actually, savings and credit are the same. In savings, you get a large amount of money at the end of some period, whereas in credit, you get the large amount of money in the beginning and then you continue to save to repay that loan. Every banker knows that only a person who can save can repay the loan.
There are 4 simple steps to link the SHG to a bank. Let us have a look at them. Step 1. Opening of savings bank account. In whose name is the account to be opened?
The account should be opened in the name of the SHG and not in the name of any individual member of the SHG.
Has RBI permitted this?
Yes, commercial banks and RRBs have RBI permission to open SB accounts in the name of the SHGs.
What are the documents to be taken from the SHG?
The documents taken are the resolution from SHG for opening account, authorization to 2 or 3 members to operate the account, copy of rules and regulations of the SHG.
Step 2. Internal lending by SHG from the Common Fund. When should internal lending start?
Within 2 to 3 months of forming the SHG, start.
Who decides the terms, purpose, interest rate, etc. of loans from SHGs to its members?
The SHG members themselves decide on these aspects. The purposes could be anything agreed by all the members of the group, such as repairs to the house, health and education, investment in milch animal, etc.
Who should do the record keeping?
SHG should maintain clear and simple books of accounts. The common savings of the SHG should be used by the SHG for lending to members within 2 to 3 months of forming the group.
Step 3. Credit rating of SHGs. There are some rating norms developed by NGOs and banks to assess the quality of SHGs. This game will give you an idea about these norms. Step 4. Loan sanctioned by bank and repayment by SHG.
In whose name is the loan to be sanctioned to the SHG?
In the name of SHG and not in the name of any member.
And what would be the quantum of the loan given?
1 to 4 times or more.
What constitutes the savings of the group?
Balance in the SB account, net cash bank, amount lent within the SHG, amount of interest earned and any other receipt.
What are the purposes for which the loan can be taken?
Let the SHG decide. That is for emergency purpose, that is the marriage and then purchase of any assets, etc.
Then who will be responsible for repaying this loan?
The SHG is responsible for repaying the loan.
Is any collateral security taken for this loan?
No, our bank is not taken any collateral security. As per the RBI and the NABARD guidelines, we won't allow any collateral security.
Can the balance in the SB account be held by the bank as collateral?
No, this will prevent the internal lending of the SHG.
Is collateral security required at all
No.
for the SHG loan?
No, the collective responsibility ensures its repayment.
What is the rate of recovery of this SHG loan?
It's above 95%.
What is the rate of interest from the bank to the SHG members?
Each bank fixes its own rate of interest, it depending upon its PLR rate.
Then what would be the rate of interest which the SHG would charge to its members?
It is generally decided by the SHG itself. It is at 2 to 3 rupees per 100 of loan.
There are more than 7 lakh SHGs benefiting from SHG bank linkage. Over 1 crore families have now become partners to progress in the rural areas of India. The rural women of India now run the most cost-effective and the fastest growing microfinance program in the world. Let us all take part in this great movement by helping the poor women in our neighborhoods to join together in self-help groups.
So we could learn from this movie as to how SHGs are formed and how they rate themselves, how that appraisal can be done within SHGs by the members themselves. Now you would be wondering what kinds of credit are given in this SHG. So one, term loan in multiple of thrift, which can be 4 times or more depending on how the group is functioning, as well as what is their credit absorption capacity, means how much they need credit and how much they can utilize to pay back also. Then repayable in 3 or more years. Usually the repayment period is 3 or more years. The other way of credit is CCL or cash credit limit or revolving credit limit, which is 4 times of the group's saving, and this is supposed to be paid in 3 years. So these are various types of credit given in SHGs. You know how many SHGs do we have by March 2009? You'll really be wondering to know the figures. It's very exciting that the number of SHGs which are having savings accounts with bank is 61,21,147. Usually people feel that poor can't save, but do you know these SHGs have saving of 55.46 billions. Such a big sum they have, means they can always save. Now the bank loan disbursed to SHGs by March 2009 was rupees 122.53 billions, and the number of SHGs to whom this loan was disbursed was 16,09,586, and the outstanding bank loan was to the tune of 226.8 billion, and the number of SHGs which are having this particular outstanding loan was 42,24,338. Now the banks which give refinance for this SHG financing they gave to the tune of 26 billion.2. Don't you find this figure too exciting? And also it tells that the SHG movement in this country has really taken a very big form. Now after this SHG, there is another way also of microfinance, that's called as JLGs. You must have heard this term. JLGs stand for Joint Liability Group. So something similar or something different from SHGs. These JLGs also are informal group, but they have members from 4 to 10 individuals. Remember, SHGs had members from 5 to 20, but here in JLGs they have 4 to 10 members. Now JLGs are formed for the purpose of availing bank loan against mutual guarantee, that as the term denotes, joint liability. Now usually JLG members are those who are engaged in similar kind of economic activities. It could be in farm sector or it could be in non-farm sector also. Now this management of within the group is very simple, and it has hardly any financial administration. It's a very simple way. Usually the purpose of having this JLG as one or maybe another mode of microfinance is to enhance flow of credit to farmers and micro entrepreneurs, especially to artisans, LECs in the area of farm and non-farm sectors. It also serves as collateral substitute for loans. Now what is that collateral substitute? That group approach, the joint liability. Another purpose of this JLG is to build mutual trust and confidence between bank and the target group. It minimizes the risk in loan portfolio for the bank because of the group and cluster. Then the overall purpose earlier we discussed in last session is to provide food security. So this is one of the objectives, to provide food security to vulnerable section by enhanced productivity and livelihood promotion through joint liability group mechanism. Now what is the criteria for selection of JLG members? So if there has to be mutual trust, if there has to be group harmony, so first thing which is very important is the members should be of homogeneous background, means they should have the same socio-economic status background and they should carry out the same or similar kind of economic activity. It could be in the farm sector, it could be in the non-farm sector. The second criteria for selection of JLG members is that the members or the ones who want to become the JLG members should agree to function as joint liability group. And these members should be from the same village, same area, and they should be able to trust each other. These were the same thing which we discussed in SHGs also while we were discussing the criteria for SHG selection of members. Now the members or the poor people, members who are poor, if they are defaulting to any other formal financial institution in past, they would be debarred to be the member of this JLG. And then from one family only one member can become the JLG. As we discussed earlier, the size of JLG can be from 4 to 10 farmers. And who can form JLGs? Any agency including like banks, PACs, primary agriculture cooperative societies or other cooperative banks or the government departments, NGOs, PRIs like Panchayati Raj institution, then Kisan Vikas Kendra, Krishi Vikas Kendra, state agriculture universities, agri-technical management agencies, farmers clubs, associations, producer associations and other departments like small scale industries, agro industries and microfinance institution. All these agencies can form JLGs or joint liability groups. Basically, unlike SHGs, joint liability groups are primarily a credit group, but they can have saving which would be on the basis of voluntarily. Then JLG members to be encouraged to open no-frill accounts. If they wish to save, then they should be encouraged to open individually no-frill accounts. Usually there are two models that we have in our country of JLGs. So model 1 or model A, here the financing is done to individuals in the group, and then all members to execute one inter se document making each one jointly and severally liable for repayment. Then financing bank to assess credit requirement, and it means the bank which is financing, which that will assess the credit requirement of the group, and there is a mutual agreement and consensus among members on how much loan to be obtained. And in model B, it is financing to the group, unlike model A. In model A, JLGs may finance individuals in the group. Here the group itself is financed rather than individuals, and JLG functions as one borrowing unit. It is eligible for acquiring one loan. If the members want to open an account or want to save, then the saving bank account is opened in the group's name, and there in other model they can open individual's name, and as we discussed, maybe it can be a no-frill account. Then all members to execute one inter se document making each one jointly and severally liable for repayment. Of course, that's the basic of JLG model, and that's in both the models. Now, what is important factor in JLG approach? One, this JLG concept depends heavily on mutual trust and peer pressure, and the leadership quality in the group is very, very important for sustainability of JLG. Why? Because the leader would be able to facilitate good functioning JLGs, the mutual trust and the peer pressure, which is the binding force for the entire group. Now, usually what are the purpose of credit is that for crop production, consumption, working capital, marketing and other productive purpose, both in farm or non-farm sector. As we discussed, the members are usually the ones who are working for similar kind of activities. Now, there is a loan limit in JLG. It could be extended maximum up to 50,000 per individual, whether it is model A of JLG which we discussed earlier or model B. The rate of interest in JLG's loan case is decided by the banks, but the incentive for prompt repayment can be considered, and they can consider that and they can decide some incentives for prompt repayment by the JLGs. Now, no collateral is supposed to be insisted upon by the bankers, and margins are as per the usual norms. The documents which are required for JLG processing of loans is: 1. Introduction form, 2. Application cum appraisal form, and then mutual guarantee and a DP note. Banks must consider covering JLG members under personal accident insurance. Now, NABARD, as we had discussed in our last session also, NABARD has played an extremely important role in microfinance, in facilitating SHGs, in promotion of SHGs, and also in JLGs. A grant assistance is given at the rate of rupees 2,000 per JLG, which is over a period of 3 years, to the eligible institutions who are forming SHGs. Then it is for formation, nurturing and financing of JLGs. And then NABARD also conducts capacity building programs, then also various extension material, publicity material, which is to support the JLG formation and functioning. Then regarding monitoring and review, banks are expected to monitor the JLG performance at regular intervals, and periodic report is to be sent by them to Reserve Bank of India and NABARD on half-yearly basis. Now, we have discussed about JLG, we have discussed about SHG. Let's talk about what's the difference in nutshell between JLG model and the SHG model. So, in reference to group size, for JLG, the group sizes, the number of members are 4 to 10, whereas in SHGs, we discussed 5 to 20. Regarding the type of members, basically in JLGs, we have discussed this is exclusively of farmers, OLSs, sharecroppers, artisans and entrepreneurs. But in case of SHGs, only the poor members of the society, of the village or the other society can become the members of SHG. Regarding saving, basically JLG is a credit group, and if they want to save, that's an optional, whereas in SHG case it is basically saving cum credit group. Regarding credit or the loan, in case of JLG it could be either singly in case of model A, or could be jointly in case of model B of JLG. It would be done by financing bank, but in case of SHG there can't be anything in the name of single members of the group. It has to be in the group's name. Now regarding the upper ceiling of the loan amount, in case of JLGs, I mentioned to you earlier, it is restricted to rupees 50,000 per individual, whereas in SHGs there is no such upper limit because the credit is linked with the saving. Now for SB account, the JLG members are encouraged to have individual no-frill accounts, whereas in case of SHG it is a group bank account, which is SB account. The other difference which JLG and SHGs have is that JLG serve as a conduit for technology transfer. They facilitate access to market information, carry out activities like soil testing, training, health camp to its members. Whereas in case of SHG, they may do this, but there is no such bar. So that's how we have seen how these two are different. While SHG is able to put all poor members who are needy and belong to the same background together in the group form, JLGs put all those artisans, entrepreneurs, or LECs, the poor income generating members in a group form, so that they can be supported by mutual trust and they can be linked with the bank. Now we are going to discuss the third method of microfinance, that's Farmers Club. As it sounds, Farmers Club means it's a gathering, it's a forum of farmers. The mission of Farmers Club is development in rural areas through credit, technology transfer, awareness and capacity building. Little bit of glimpses we can see in this documentary as to what is the meaning of Farmers Club and how important it is for the agricultural growth of the country. Farmer clubs are the grassroots level informal forums of farmers. They are community organizations of farmers, and these are organized usually by the rural branches of the bank, and they get the support from NABARD in terms of financial support and promotional support. Now with the enhancement of the program, there are many other agencies like NGOs, voluntary agencies, then Krishi Vikas Kendra and agriculture universities. They are also included to support this process of Farmers Club formation. So they are also included as formation promoting agencies. This Farmers Club's program, it was launched by NABARD in November 1982, and the purpose of this promotion is to propagate the 5 principles of development through credit. Now we must know what are these 5 principles of development through credit. 1. Credit must be used in accordance with the most suitable methods of science and technology. Then the terms and conditions of credit must be fully respected. Third, the work should be done with skills and so skillfully, so efficiently, so that production and productivity both increase. A part of additional income created by credit must be saved. And the fifth principle is loan installments must be repaid in time and regularly so that credit can be recycled. The same program was earlier popular as Vikas Volunteer Vahini program or VVV Club program, but was rechristened as Farmers Club in 2005. Now what does Farmers Club do? 1. It coordinates with banks to ensure credit flow among its members and enhance better bank-borrower relationships. Then the second function is to organize meetings at least once a month, and then depending on the need it could be 2 or 3 meetings per month. In these meetings, the non-members or the expert can also be invited to attend the meetings. Then the third function is to have an interface or to facilitate interface of the members with the subject matter specialist of various fields from agriculture and allied activities, extension personnel of agriculture universities, development departments and other related agencies for the technical know-how upgradation. As we know, this technology transfer, upgradation of input, more efficient use of input are a few of those very key factors to boost the agricultural growth. So these are the things which are inbuilt in this. For guest lectures, even experienced farmers who could be non-members of the farmers club from the village or the neighboring village can be invited. Then the corporate input suppliers the farmers club members should have license with them. Then they should organize and facilitate joint activities like value addition, processing, collective purchase of input, farm produce marketing, etc. for the benefit of members. They can also sponsor and organize SHGs. Other function of farmers club is to undertake socio-economic development activities like community work, education, health campaign, environment and natural resource management, etc. And one of the most important function is to market rural produce and products through collective bargaining power, which they gain through well-functioning farmers clubs. Now, what is NABARD support? We discussed earlier that NABARD promotes and supports all these microfinance methods including SHGs, jlgs and farmers club. For farmers club, NABARD helps in capacity building of members of farmers clubs in terms of various training, especially the leadership training. It also links them with technology in the markets. Then self-help group and joint liability group formation. Then also it helps in forming federation of farmers clubs or producer groups or the companies. Now, what are the benefits which banks get out of these farmers club? So one study which was done by IIM Lucknow has brought out a few very important points as benefits to banks through farmers club is it helps in increasing low cost deposit for the banks. Then it also increases the credit flow and also diversification of lending. It generates new business avenues. It increases in recovery and decline in non-performing assets. Then it reduces transaction cost of banks and then financial institution, and overall it develops business partners among its own clients. It also helps in socio-economic development of the village. It's almost like a collaborative function or a win-win situation between the banker and the borrower. Besides these benefits to the bank, the farmers clubs has also been instrumental in certain social welfare measures such as free eye checkup camps, animal health care camps, mass vaccination camp, community words like road check dams, afforestation, etc. Through this collective efforts, it enhances their bargaining power for bulk purchases of input and marketing of their own produce. Now, who all can form the farmers club? It could be commercial banks, cooperative banks, RRBs or regional rural banks, or other grassroots level organizations like voluntary agencies, NGOs, Panchayati Raj institution, state agriculture universities, Krishi Vikas Kendra, post offices, etc. These agencies can form. Now, what is the setup of this farmers club? Farmers club is an informal forum in the village. Is there any benefit of being informal? Yes, the benefit of being informal is they can customize to their own need. The functioning can be very much customized to their own need of the poor or the farmers. Now, it can be promoted in a village or a cluster of villages, generally in the operational area of a bank. While farmers club should have minimum of 10 members, there is no upper limit given about the membership. Every club would be having 3 office bearers, one chief coordinator or the chief volunteer or the president, second the associate coordinator or the associate volunteer or the vice president, and third the cashier. The office bearers would be elected by club members on a democratic basis for a term which would be decided by the club members themselves. The office bearer should be resident of the area of the operation of the club. The NGOs or the farmer club promoting agencies representatives, they cannot become the office bearer of the club. It can be only the people or the farmers of that area. What is the function of these office bearers? We discussed about the functions of farmers club. So naturally the responsibility of those functions goes to office bearers to facilitate, one, to convene meetings, then to have an interface, to facilitate an interface with the experts, with the members, maintenance of books of accounts, then having a liaison and coordination with various agencies including banks, line departments, state governments, universities, then also maintaining proper liaison with all other agencies which are very important for the overall functioning. Now who can become the member? Except the willful defaulters, all other villagers can become the members of the club. The club must make the efforts to raise their own resources by way of contribution from its members, and they should undertake certain business services such as bulk procurement of input and collective marketing of agriculture produce. They can also act as agents for insurance and other services. So all these activities may enhance their resource base. What are the various steps involved in formation of farmers club? So the bank branch can promote the clubs directly or through various agencies we discussed earlier, can be KVKs or agriculture universities or NGOs or the other corporates, etc. Now all these agencies can be involved in promoting and they are eligible to form farmers clubs. So a village or the cluster of villages can be selected which is suitable for launching club, but it should be within the operating area of the bank branch. And how they form this farmers club? They identify a few progressive farmers and the borrowers who have got the good track record of proper loan utilization. They've got the aptitude and capacity to lead the team. So those people are taken for this farmers club. Actually the success of farmer club depends on who are the members, because if the members are not the right choice, the farmers club may not act as a collective group or the community based group. Then after this, after you have chosen those opinion leaders or the progressive farmers, you encourage the bank branch encourages the members to select a chief, means office bearer selection. So the president, the vice president and the cashier is selected, and it is to ensure collective leadership and continuance of the club. The next step is to provide orientation training to these members of farmer club with the help of NABARD. So NABARD has got a district development manager in every district, and if the branch approaches DDM or district development manager, the person arranges or to help the orientation training of farmers club. Then encourage members to convene monthly meeting on a regular basis, and also to facilitate, to help them to have meaningful discussion during this meeting, and also to take necessary follow-up action. Then the next important step here is to motivate members to identify the credit needs as well as non-credit needs of the group. The credit needs, naturally money related need or the need which will help them to get finances. Non-credit needs are like training, the socio-economic development or the village infrastructure or the community works, etc. And then a plan is prepared based on these needs, and then accordingly the expert talks is arranged, the counseling or other expert interfaces arranged with the help of various agencies which are available. Then the next step is to ensure that members maintain membership register, meeting register, minutes book and books of account, means maintenance of document. Then next step is to evolve a performance parameter and measure the club's contribution annually. Now this performance parameter will help to check whether the group is functioning well or not. Then use club as a tool in aid of branch, not only in the matter of credit flow or recovery, but also in facilitation or promotion of self-help groups, microcredit, financial inclusion and convergence of various banking or other services. Then to have a kind of better functioning farmers clubs or graduation of farmers clubs into the Federation of Farmers Club or producers groups is necessary, or it is volunteer, or it is considered to be a good thing to have a desirable parameter for performance appraisal, and this should be done by the sponsoring agencies. Now, there are various incentives for promoting farmers club like awards to best working clubs. Then second thing is NABARD's capacity building for adoption of technology program could be used for the benefits of farmers club members for training and exposure visits within and outside the state. NABARD gives financial assistance to the agencies who promote. It could be agencies or could be any other agency or members at the rate of rupees 10,000 per club per annum for a period of 3 years, and this includes formation and maintenance expenses at the rate of 2,000 rupees, then base level orientation training program at the rate of 5,000 rupees, and then meet with expert program which are done twice in a year at the rate of 3,000. So put together 10,000 rupees assistance is given per club per annum for a period of 3 years. Then NGOs or KVKs, they will be provided by NABARD with an incentive of rupees 2,000 per club out of the total assistance of rupees 10,000 per club per annum. Then NGOs, KVKs who are operating in hilly terrains or the difficult terrains or the remote or Naxal areas will be provided with additional incentive of rupees 3,000 per club for a period of 3 years over and above of rupees 10,000. There is also provision of revival package for the assistance for dormant clubs. To revive them, NABARD has introduced a revival package. Now, this assistance may be used towards meeting the revival cost, which includes the arranging of exposure visits for the member, as well as concerned branch managers who belong to such clubs which are dormant. Then this package of assistance may be extended to NGOs, VAs for revival of clubs promoted by banks. So, dear friends, we have understood today, we have discussed 3 methods which are very important of microfinance. The first one was self-help group, the second was joint liability group, and the third was farmers clubs. All these 3 methods which we discussed, they are informal groups, and flexibility is one of the key factors for them to be successful, provided they work cohesively and there is a mutual trust among them. It helps them to connect to the formal banking system, which also helps them to get rid of the exploitation of money lenders and also develop that area where they reside, mainly the agriculture area or the rural area or any other area which is underdeveloped. So, with this, I feel you are well versed with the various very important methods of microfinance and how does it help in bringing the poor into the main fold.